Dear ones, preaching these days feels close. I'm not looking out over your faces. Some of you sitting in the chairs that you have sat in for years, and others of you don't normally join us for worship in person. And rather than seeing me up behind the pulpit, I'm speaking directly to you on a computer screen, so it feels different. It's changing how I am preaching. And I hope that you're doing well today. I'm wondering what you might need. But of course, the largest question rather, on my mind is how are you contributing to this project of collective liberation? That's a pretty big question, I realize. Um, I'm thinking partially about this because yesterday marked the 52nd anniversary of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. One of the quotes of his that resonates with me deeply during these days is one from his letter from Birmingham City Jail. This letter from April 3rd, 1963, was written in response to 8 white clergy in Alabama who published an open letter in the newspapers as a call for unity. They wrote it to denounce the nonviolent methods of King and others. King writes in that letter, "Moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one of us directly affects us all." Now, I don't believe that King was thinking about pandemics and non-pharmacological interventions, but he could have been. Whatever affects one affects all directly, indirectly rather. You know this, I think. Even if you don't have this disease, your life has been affected by others who do. And you're making choices for the protection of others. Our communities, our states, our countries are related to others in deep ways. The borders that are on maps dissolve away. By staying home and reducing the number of people you come in contact with, you flatten the curve and reduce your own chances of being exposed to this disease. But you know this, you don't need a minister to tell you. There are others out there who are telling you. On this day, I want to move from thinking about how you are as an individual, how you are doing, to consider how are we as a community? What part are you playing in collective liberation? Now, our Jewish siblings observe the festival of Passover starting on April 8th. And this is normally a festival of shared ritualized meals with family, and then friends, and then strangers. There are some, I think, Orthodox rabbis who are giving permission for the first time ever to hold Passover Seders on Zoom. And I'm sure other forms of Judaism are doing the same. The Passover story is one of the retelling of the Jews' exodus from slavery in Egypt. Alana Newhouse, who's the editor-in-chief of Tablet magazine, writes this about the festival of Passover. She writes, "Indeed, I've come to think of Passover as the stem cell of the Jewish people, a reserve of core source material with the proven ability to generate new meaning and solace in circumstances even more extreme than what we are living through now." She continues on to say, "Perhaps you're disappointed because you can't celebrate the way you're used to. But do you also remember matzo? That unleavened cracker we eat because the Jews rushed out of their houses before the bread could rise? The entire holiday is rooted in glorifying a moment when life unfolded in very unexpected ways, and human beings found meaning, even liberation, in that. What do we do when life unfolds in very unexpected ways? Well, I guess we won't know for a while, of course. It's still unfolding. We're still in the midst of the story, still writing it. The Unitarian Universalist Church I grew up in Groton, Massachusetts, had a number of people from Jewish backgrounds, so we observed a Passover Seder. One of the central parts of that Seder, that ritualized script for the meal, rather that's the Haggadah, the Seder is the meal, is the naming of the plagues. Normally we'd start by naming the traditional plagues, but then we'd open it up to others. And I have no doubt that we'd name COVID-19 as one of those plagues. This ritual usually involves dropping a little bit of wine on a napkin for relief that the plague passed this house, but sadness as well for those who are suffering. What is true, my friends gathered here, is that this pandemic is highlighting inequalities that already existed in our world. We feel as though we are living with oppression, but for some of us, it is more of a burden. I wonder, what will we do with this time? Yes, we want the virus to go away, but what will we do to free others from inhumane conditions? We have learned how essential workers really are, and sadly, they are usually low paid. But the truth is, they were always essential. We just took them for granted. Truckers and grocery store cashiers and baggers, drive-through window workers, delivery workers, nurses, respiratory therapists, and others. They were always essential. We just took them for granted. May we find ways in the coming days to work towards this project of collective liberation, to remember that truth. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all directly. May it be so.